reason to change my mind.
You know
So
what?
there
I
it
can't
is.
I can't picture anything changing you, but we do have to go to break. I'm so sorry to interrupt.
That's okay.
But we will be back in 2 minutes.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
And just like that, ta-da, we're back. And you know, Andrea, you've got so many friends who care so much about you. And we have Glenda and Ubu in chat now as well with Brenda and Denise and Shelly. And this is really a lot of people. And Jacob had a comment and a question for you regarding ETs. And the question is, well, comment and question. The first vessel he saw wasn't necessarily a shape. It was like a big light resembling the North Star, but it hovered over the house doing 360s. Have you ever seen a vessel that looked like, well, any star really, but the North Star specifically?
I saw a vessel that looked like what I perceived to be the Star of David. It was
That's
just shocking.
that would be shocking.
Yeah, I wrote about it in the book. It was, and I was with my producer. He was taking me to the airport, and there was this enormous cloud right over Atlanta, and all the rest of the sky was completely clear except for this huge cloud over Atlanta as we were coming in to the city to head to Hartsfield International Airport. And I was looking at the cloud thinking, saying, Les, look at that's a very unusual. That's so unusual. And there's no other clouds, and we're just coming on I-20 driving east. We were going to have to cut south to the airport. And then I saw what seemed like a high intensity spot of light in the middle of the cloud. And the sun had already risen. It was above it, like the sun was at like about 10 o'clock from the cloud formation itself. And the spotlight started as what appeared to be a pinpoint of light. And then it just kept growing and growing and growing. And then it just exploded, and spikes of light were coming off of every corner of it. It was an explosion of light coming out of the center of this cloud. And we both said, oh my God, what the bleep is that? It's, less like that ain't no helicopter, it was wow,
That is
wow.
wow.
And yeah, and I said, why isn't everybody running off the road? Why isn't everybody running into each other? from the shock
Or
of
just
seeing
running. Or just
yeah,
running.
I mean, it was really, it was a mind blowing spectacle. And then the light receded very quickly, and then the cloud just evaporated and disappeared. Um, Interestingly, we talked about it all the way to the airport. Les and I are longtime, very good friends. All the way to the airport, talked about what could it have been? Was it a vessel? Was it a vessel cloaked in a cloud? Was the cloud a vessel? What was that? Why didn't anybody else see it? If they did, why didn't they crash their cars? It was that brilliant. And we got to the airport. He dropped me off. I came back from my trip to Colorado to go do some filming at Gaia TV. He picked me up. He had no memory of it.
Oh, my goodness.
None. No memory of it.
That is bizarre.
I check with him. I check in with him every now and then. Remember that thing we saw in the cloud? And he's like, a deer in the headlights. Doesn't even have any idea what I'm discussing with him.
Oh, that's tragic. I would hate to lose that memory.
It was, he saw it in the moment, but either he shut it down because it was too traumatic or, just too startling, made him too uncomfortable. Either it was a mechanism that triggered in his own brain chemistry that he just simply forgot about it, or they didn't want him to remember because he was having an adverse effect from it.
Well, yeah, that would be logical.
Yeah, so, either way, it's for the best. I just think that it's absolutely fascinating that I don't understand why there weren't just piles of cars all over both sides of I-20.
Brenda in chat said people just don't look up. But that would be tough to miss.
True. I know. We've got all this incredible technology just in our lifetimes. And, so much of it, I think, can be credited to back engineering of vessels that have landed or crafts that have crashed. And yet the supreme irony of that is that this probably intergalactic technology keeps us with our faces hovering down into a phone instead of looking up to the source of the technology.
Right. I think that's a tragedy because, we're so busy. In fact, it prevents human interaction.
Yeah, I know. Well, we'll get past this. We're kind of like babies with this technology. Yeah. And I really do think that we'll get past it. I mostly ignore my phone unless I have some business to do or, I've got an incoming comment from one of my editors or a text from a producer in California or something like that. Other than that, and for the occasional interview that I'm not using Skype, that I'm using my phone. Other than that, my phone sits very lonely.
Well, my husband wishes mine did.
Yeah. Well, I just prefer to look up into the stars. I prefer to connect in that way and not just in terms of, peering up into outer space, but also connecting with nature, just being out in nature.
Well, I do a lot of that, and it's where I do gain those experiences. And, I have dogs, so when you go out, you're playing as well as building something or cleaning something or whatever. But when I read on my phone or my tablet a lot, and because it's easier than carrying books in my bags. Yeah. But when I'm at home, I still do it because it gets to be a habit. You don't even, or I'm better at it now, but I used to wouldn't even, grab my real books. And I love holding a book. There's nothing like connecting with it because you get lost in it.
Yeah.
And I've always done that. But I do with yours. As well as everyone else who I find so fascinating. But I am just really interested in the work that you're doing with Gaia too, and I know that that's probably going to be too long because but I just still want to hear about it. What are you doing?
Well, I have done, I believe, 4 episodes of Open Minds
Mm-hmm.
with Gina Meredith. That's her
Yes.
series. Um, and she asked me back to do another one. We haven't booked it yet. I've been very busy, and so is she. So we haven't booked it yet, but it always comes together at the right and proper, perfect time for us to do our thing. And I know once this book is released and I send it to her, she's going to just be beside herself. So I know I'll be going back on for episode 5. But it's always lovely to go out to Boulder. It's really one of the prettiest towns in the country.
Yes, it is.
And I have a friend who lives out there. She and her husband live about, I would say, 600 yards from a view of the Continental Divide that would flatten you.
Holy
Um,
wow.
yeah, like blow you away. Like you can't even believe, pinch myself, this isn't real. I can't believe I'm seeing this. So every time I go out there, it's absolutely delightful. And the last time that I went, I had a very interesting experience with my limo driver, a story that I included in the book as well. I have a whole chapter in the book called Conscious Contact. And what I did was I just let my memory kind of free float
Right.
for um, how let it just go wherever it wanted to, and every time it would kind of settle on a particularly poignant memory or something that really touched me or fundamentally changed me. I'd go, scribble it in, type it into the manuscript, give it a title, a 2-second, 2-line description, and then move on and then free float again, stream of consciousness stuff.
Absolutely.
And before I knew it, I had a couple of dozen incidents, each of which I would qualify as life altering. So I wrote them up. I wrote the details of each encounter, what I saw, how I interacted, what happened, when it happened, where it happened. And the thing that's so interesting is that, I really, as like a forensic scientist, that I am not. I am an experiencer. I am
Yes.
somebody who is in contact with them. As a researcher, I leave much to be desired. I don't seem to write things down in a timely way, or I do on a piece of paper that I promptly lose. And yet I knew the month and the year of every single one of these incidents without having to refer back or ask anybody else who knew about it, refer back into my journal, nothing. I didn't even have to look. I just knew when these things happened because each one of them was pivotal to my spiritual evolution, what I consider my spiritual ascension. So, I really hope that people are moved by that because you can have one thing happen to you in your life that fundamentally alters your perspective on everything for the rest of your life. And I've had one incident after another like that. So in some ways, I feel like I'm spiraling off in this direction and spiraling off in that direction. And yet everything is one thing. Everything is energy. And with the realization of oneness, time is irrelevant. We use it, to measure our finite existence here, but it really is irrelevant. It's, our little human timeline, but it's not the truth of the universe. And so right toward the end of it, I even put in a paragraph about, how I named the date and, the month and the year of each one of these incidents. Now put them all out of your mind and think back on this entire chapter as this happened in her lifetime. And
Unbelievable.
it expands consciousness, and a mind expanded does not contract. You can't unthink, unlearn, unread, unhear, unfeel, unthink something that has caused